So today we're having this conversation with Rob Orchard, founder and creative consultant here at ArtsEmerson, but of course known for many years as the managing director of the American Repertory Theatre over in Cambridge, and Anatoly Smeliansky, a huge, co-director of the Dramaturgy department at the Institute here in Cambridge at the A.R.T, but also for many years affiliated in the literary department and at the Moscow Art Theater, just a staple of Russian theater. So very excited to have you two in conversation today about the Mali Drama Theater coming to Boston with Lev Dodin's production of Three Sisters. So how did you two meet?
Long ago.
It's been so long, I can't remember now. Well, we met in Moscow. I started going back and forth relatively often in 1985,
coincided with the new Russian Soviet era.
Exactly.
Gorbachev came to power.
That was the beginning.
The country was open.
Glasnost and Perestroika, the restructuring and the opening up of the culture. And the very first time I landed in Moscow, I was ushered to a performance at the Tabakov Studio Theater. And the theater was this small basement space that was quite well regarded, so it was always oversubscribed, and people were sitting in the aisles and hanging from the rafters. And I saw a production of, I think they were trying to be nice to me because it was an American coming to Moscow for the first time. I saw a production of Neil Simon's Biloxi Blues. Okay, here I am. I'm in the capital of Chekhov and the Stanislavski, and I'm seeing Biloxi Blues. The next night, I went to the Duganka Theater, famous theater that Lubimov was running at the time, and I saw this piece called Phaedra. It wasn't a Greek play. It was based on a very famous Russian poet. And you chime in if I'm getting anything wrong.
Marina Tsvetaeva.
Yeah. And it was beautiful, and there was this actor in it who looked exactly like the actor I had seen the previous night. But he must have come from the ballet, okay? So they were clearly twins. Well, they weren't twins, it was the same actor. And that actor that I saw in Biloxi Blues, he was a very good, straightforward, realistic actor, was doing this incredible movement that looked like it was right out of the ballet. I mean, the Bolshoi. And I asked, it may have been you, or may have been somebody else. I said, how can that person do both? And then they said, Andrei Droznin. Andrei Droznin, he's been trained by Andrei Droznin. Great movement teacher. So I started going to Droznin's classes and seeing some of his workshops.
Who is still teaching at Vakhtangov School? He's 77 now.
Yeah.
Movement teacher, yes. Looks like, if you know the French great classical novel, Three Musketeers.
Yeah. Oh, yes, he does. He has that kind of blonde. Yeah.
He's from Lvov, he's from Ukraine, from the western part of Ukraine.
Yeah.
In his childhood, spoke only Polish language, not Russian.
Anyhow, we had a training program at the ART where I was working at the time, and we started bringing these great teachers because the basis of American theater comes out of the great teaching of Stanislavski, and that method that Stanislavski had that evolved over time, and so these, and it's still true today. Master teachers in Russia are the best in the world. So it was a relationship that formed around training. Then we started the Stanislavski Summer School in 1991.
Yes, it was some different years, and we went through all of the decades, of that friendship and problems, and again. And I remember the 80s and beginning of the 90s when, after the breakup of the Soviet Union, and we started first MFA in acting with Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. And after a couple of years of had that friendship with Rob and Robert Brustin, who was the artistic director, both founder of the ART, and at the same time in parallel, we launched the Stanislavski Summer School in Cambridge, which is alive until now, 25 years of activities. And we started thinking, why we are in Pittsburgh after a year or a couple of years of. It's very good collaboration, but of course ART for us, because the problem with Moscow Art Theater School, it's a school at the Moscow Art Theater. The company and the school is funded differently, but it's unity, it's together. And this is the place where we have ART and Institute for Advanced Theater Training. It's a very, very close collaboration and so on. And we decided and started talking about that. And finally, on the end of the 90s, 1998 probably, we started the new collaboration, MFA in acting. Then on the top of it, MFA in dramaturgy. We have every year we are taking aboard 18 actors and 3, 4, 5 dramaturgs. And the program goes now, how many years? 18 years probably. 18 years in a row. Before the sanctions, during the sanctions, after the sanctions.
Right.
And it looks like this is the real, something real. It's not, you cannot deceive people, 18 years. And yes, Russia has a problem now, and of course I'm afraid a little bit about the future of the program. But anyway, we are, as much as we can, we keep the program, and that gentleman, Rob and Bruston, they did everything to start it, to develop it, and to mature the program. And it goes very well, because 3 months out of 2 years, 1 semester in the spring, the freshman year, the students, American students, are in Moscow with their show, their performance they prepared here in Cambridge. So through 18 years, we got audience for the American theater. It's the first, I would say, American theater after the breakup of the Soviet Union.
Well, it's
in Moscow.
It's the only English language
and
theater in Russia.
Thousands of audiences love it, because it's a real English. It's a Harvard students. It's ART and everything. It's how it works,
Right.
And even now, all of the Americans on their way to Moscow, they are now in Poland. In a few days, they would be in Moscow, and then until end of May, they are there. And I will come on the end of May probably to finish that semester, because this year I came for good to Brookline. I'm here, but actually I'm overlooking that, and I'm running that. I'm trying to cover, to help, to assist. Anyway, it started years ago, and it went through all of the upheavals of those years, and still alive, I would say.
So over the years, there's been a strong connection of art being an exchange between Russia and the United States, even in very politically tenuous times. Of course, the famous production of Our Town from Arena Stage going to Moscow in the early 70s. How is that relationship between Russia and the United States, with theater as the conduit, how has that evolved over the years, especially the years that you two have been collaborating together?
Well, on the education side, it's matured into this now distinctive advanced training program, and it began with the students getting an MFA from the Moscow Art Theater School and a certificate from Harvard, and now it's evolved such that the students get a degree from Harvard
from the extension school,
and a certificate from the Moscow Art Theater. But beyond that, we started bringing productions here. So, for instance, that Phaedra I saw back in 1985, I brought it to Cambridge a year later, or maybe it was 6 months later. Tolya and Oleg Tabakov, the artistic director of the Moscow Art Theater, partnered with the Chekhov Festival and brought 3 productions from the ART to Moscow. And that was a truly special moment for those American actors to perform on the stage of the Moscow Art Theater.
It's the stage where all of the Chekhovs,
Right.
most of the Chekhovs
Right.
plays were born.
Yeah. They were the first American actors ever to perform on that stage.
And they did participate in their Slavic Bazaar conference. Slavic
That's
Bazaar
right,
is
yeah.
100 years of the meeting between Stanislavski and Nemirovich Danchenko, founders of the Moscow Art. It was a special conference in 1997, 100 years after the Slavic Bazaar meeting, just to mark what is going on in the contemporary theater world. and both of them were there, and we were together, and many other things. They were bringing A.R.T, Rob and Bob, some of Russian directors, Kamaginkas, and Yuri Yeremin, and all of the great teachers, Roman Kozak, who died unfortunately young, and so on and so on. And of course, there is a triangle, and Petersburg, of course, every time is in a focus, over there, because it's a second capital, first capital, second capital of Russia, with a beautiful theater academy, with some of the beautiful companies over there. And Leo Dodin, by the way, one of the things for our talk today, he is one of the very few, the most important Russian directors going that way, I would say, Stanislavski and way, not only Stanislavski, he would not accept it, but anyway, was working for the Moscow Art Theater many times, and friend of the Moscow Art Theater, and some of their disciple of the Moscow Art, and so we are together for many years, and we are looking at each other, because like a mirroring, what you are doing, what we are doing, just to navigate, because theater is unpredictable, and nobody knows what would be in 2 months or in the next year, so we are trying to feel each other, and what is the theater community of the world? Why we have festivals? Well, we have Chekhov's festival. Why you have that in Boston, inviting Peter Brook, or I don't know, the Europeans, the best Europeans, just to feel what is going on, to be on the page, the same page.
It's healthy, and the Mali Theater in St. Petersburg, where Lev Dodin, who created the Three Sisters, is based, also has a school associated with it. And he oftentimes, his company is fed by the school, and oftentimes working with younger actors. And the first production of his I saw was a piece called Gaudeamus.
Gaudeamus, yes.
Yeah.
The medieval students' anthem,
Yeah. And it opened with a stage, pretty much the full width of a platform that was sloping down towards the audience. Pretty much the full width of the stage, and it was covered with snow. Okay, and the actors came forward. This is the very first gesture in the play production. Actors came forward from upstage, stood, paused, looked at the audience, jumped, and disappeared under the snow. How did they do that? How did they do that? Okay, that was just one, and then about 5 or 6 other actors came and did the same thing, okay? And I'm sitting there going, well, how are you going to top that? I mean, you gotta work towards that, right? I mean, you can't start with that, can you? And by God, he did. The next kind of mind-boggling gesture with this group of actors was they came forward, and they all had instruments, and they were a credible band. They all,
all of them musicians and singers and soldiers, Soviet soldiers, because it was the first play based on their, it's Gorbachev typical piece of that perestroika era, about Soviet army, but not about Soviet army generally, but about that part of the Soviet army of the builders, which they hired like slaves actually, and most of them are from their far part of the Soviet Union, guys with that kind of stuff. And in that snow, in that stage, it was a holes like that, the dark stuff, instead of soldiers' toilets, And from there and everywhere, it's a hell actually. Together with the snow, with the beautiful poetical stuff, with the songs and so on and so on. It was one of the most energetic, beautiful metaphor of what is going on in a country.
It was astonishing. And then another moment they came on. And again, here we had a group of credible ballet dancers. But that's the discipline. That's how they're trained. They have to play an instrument. They obviously are physically incredibly adroit. We were running a training program. Said, I want our students to be able
By the way, most of the actors of Dodin's theater, most of the actors, it's his disciples. You should understand that.
Yeah.
In Three Sisters, in all of the shows, most of the actors, generational stuff. And he was teaching in the institute, at the institute in St. Petersburg for years, decades. Now he's a chair of the department, acting department. And most of the actors are in a company, his disciples.
Yeah.
This is also Moscow Art Theater tradition, which is a kind of, not monastery, but your company, your theater is, they are coming and they are dedicate their lives for them, and you will see the actors, you can talk to them. It's a very difficult way of doing theater company. It's not Western way, not an American way, because America is on move. But Russian theater, based on that a little bit different tradition of that family-like theater, home-like theater, which is in a great thing like Dorian Theatre, like Kamaginka's theater, like Pyotr Fomenko theaters. In the worst case, it would be, the I would say fellowship or some kind of a brotherhood is a good when it's a real brotherhood, not like in a prison, also kind of a fellowship of a prison. But I understand that the different way of doing theater. But when we're keeping in mind that Dorian is running theater, the company which is bringing you now to Boston, he's running that theater more than 30 years. And most of the actors are his disciples. It's a real Russian type of family where actually when the kids grow up, they're going to colleges, to another countries, to another cities, together the whole life, long distance, run. And if you are together for so many years and they grow up, and director, artistic director, father is thinking about you, what you will play next season and so on, how to give you the new opportunities to be a great actor. So it's a special way. And very few, I would say 5, 6 people in a country can do it. It's not like all Russian theaters, 600 companies are like Moscow Art Theater, which is ridiculous. It's just few of them. Dorian is one of them, definitely, with the incredible stamina, with incredible willpower, of incredible imagination. He is very talented as a director. And he's a dictator, like Stanislavski was a dictator. It's not like, do what you want. No, no. Every finger, if you lift the finger, should be, expressive, like in Haudamus, which Rob described, I remember that one scene in Haudamus now just came to mind. They have the scene about the soldier, Russian soldier, Soviet soldier over there, and one girl who then they're having sex. But what kind of having sex? What does it mean on stage? It's not like, pornography. It's a poetical performance. And the soldier, and they are kissing each other. Then there is a piano over there. And at the same time, when they are in love, they started, one of them is with a bare foot, pushing the keys, and this is Mozart. You should understand that, not by that, by his foot. Unbelievable, professional stuff. If I would ask you to play Mozart, with that, how many months you have to train yourself, to drill yourself, to play Mozart like that, It's about, what does it mean, a real super director. When he is, Gordon Craig was dreaming about an actor like super marionette, means absolutely perfect. This is in that home-like theater, when you can drill. Some of them are, of course, left the company or cannot do it, cannot take it. But most of them are with Dorian for years and years, and I would say now decades. Yeah. That's the point.
And you'll see it in Three Sisters.
And now is a new generation, by the way, in Three Sisters, Masha, which is Lisa Boyarskaya. This is the last new generation of the great, now stars, really, movie stars and everything. Lisa Boyarskaya is Masha. This is 2007, the graduation year. Boyarskaya and Kozlovsky, the guy who is not probably in Three Sisters, but he's in the Cherry Orchard in New York. He's Lopakhin in the Cherry Orchard. Great guy who speaks English like you, and by the way, sings in the Cherry Orchard the great song of
Sinatra.
Sinatra, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
In English, by the way,
yeah.
in English. It's just a joke about that, but I would say now it's like a cake, the company, because I'm with them and I'm looking after them few decades, I can understand now that those guys are from the 80s, those guys from the 90s, those guys from the 0 years, and now it's a new generation of great people. Actually, it's very rare, even in the Moscow Art Theater, when they were, after the revolution, Stanislavski did not feel that they have another life, because the revolution actually ended the Russian life, and after the revolution, they had a problem. About 10 years, the new generation did not come to life. Finally, they did come, and Stanislavski started crying when he discovered that in the days of the turbines of the Bulgakov's play, that this is a new actors, not only his, this is something. And Dorian he really had all kind of dramas of his life and everything. It's not like happy life. The guy goes from happiness to happiness, from drama to drama, I would say. But new generation came to life now, and they are, in most of his productions now, they are in the central parts and so on and so on. Including three sisters like Liza Boyarskaya, who is playing Masha. I don't know who is else, because it's a new cast for me, actually. I saw it in Moscow when they brought it to Moscow, but I have not seen it in Boyarskaya. It was another actress over there.
Rob, over the years, a lot of the acting companies here in the States at the large regional theaters have disbanded, a lot of them disbanding in the late 90s. Why is that? Why that we hear about these great acting schools and monasteries, as Tolia keeps referring to them, in Russia, and why is that not the case here?
I actually believe that the model really hasn't changed. It's shifted its center of gravity. So, for instance, we still have companies of actors that are dedicated to a body of work. It's just that they're not in the larger institutions. They're the smaller, younger, devised ensemble companies, like Elevator Repair Service and like the Civilians. So there still is that incredible energy that comes from people who share a kind of aesthetic and an artistic vocabulary, and who have a kind of shorthand in working with one another because they've dedicated their lives as artists to working together. But in the larger institutional theater, where there was at one time, there were more companies. There are very few. There are notable exceptions. Right down the street in Providence, Trinity Repertory Company is superb. And then the largest institutional theater in the country is also a company in Ashland, Oregon, the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. So we still have a few, and there are others too. I don't mean to suggest that. But why did the model change? I honestly don't know. It's complicated. I think each organization...
Because you are under capitalism, real capitalism, right. And the Russians were for 75 years. The model of the Moscow Art Theater is not the model of the Soviet Moscow Art Theater. You should understand that. When we are talking about model of the Moscow Art Theater, the company in residence with Stanislavski, 25% of the company every season left Moscow Art Theater. It's just the body of the company he was trying to save. The problem is how to save the company through years and how to have the freedom. Because if I will tell you, you would be next 25 years with me, you'd say, no. I love you, but
not that much.
Americans don't like that, because the stasis, stagnation, all kind of things which someone is also changing. Lev Dodin is great, but if he would be, something happens to him, and talent is not forever, It's not like I'm appointed and for the rest of your life you are with me. This is the Soviet tradition, That's the point. The opposite is you have to have that freedom to leave if you don't like it. If you would like to be with another director, with another city. The Soviets did not have that opportunity to go even to another company. Right. That's strange combination of greatness in some cases and stasis and stagnation in many, many cases. And we should underline it, because now a lot of people say, no, Russian theater is the best in the world because we have that Moscow Art Theater type. Moscow Art Theater type is a few companies in the country. That's it. It's like monasteries. And if you would ask me about Dodin, what is the company of that type? I remember they have a show called Brothers and Sisters. He did it in 1985. They still have a run, over there. What, of course, Most of the actors are the same. Most of the actors. And years ago, he gave me kind of a gift, the black, white picture photo of the brothers and sisters, because I loved the show. I wrote about them. I did talk on Russian television. And, okay, I looked at the picture. It's too many actors over there. I said, Lova, why the show has so many actors? I forgot. He said, you should understand that this is brother and sisters, but here we have all of the actors who played that show. There is a live actors and who died through the years, because when you have a show which is 30 years in the repertoire, you should understand some of the actors are dying, and they are still members of the family. Yep. And the picture is called Brother and Sister. This is the idea. What does it mean, that company? Brothers and sisters together. Doesn't matter you're alive or you are dead. We are in the memory of the company.
Wow. Yeah, and then some of the actors are very proprietary about the roles that they originated 30 years ago. And they're actually a little too old for it now.
But
those are delicate moments.
Dorian believes that actually the adaptation to age, it's a 5 minutes. It's quite difficult problem, because if someone is aged, not good for the part, but sometimes he keeps them because he wants to have them in the cast. Sometimes, he's changing them.
So what can audiences who have never been to a Dodin production before, what can they expect? What makes something, signature Dodin?
Well, I mean, Anatoly knows more of his work, but I would say incredible energy coming off the stage and moments of utter surprise and take your breath away.
I think that should expect the audience which would come to see it should expect the quality of acting, because the play analysis, the acting, the way he is manipulating with the actors and interpreting the text, the play, is his. Very original, very unusual. He's not bookish. He's not going from the... Yes, text is everything. Chekhov is everything, but he himself is also everything. This is a kind of, I remember that one guy, friend of mine, who is a great Russian director, he says, what does it mean, interpretation of the classics? Because in the Soviet time, it was very dangerous to interpret classics, because they were afraid that classic will ruin the regime, And he said, when I'm in Paris and you are watching the Eiffel Tower, in Paris, first feeling, I'm in front of the Eiffel Tower. It's great. I'm in front of it because Eiffel Tower is great. I'm in front of Chekhov. I'm in front of Dostoevsky. Second thought, which is not less important, Eiffel Tower in front of me. When you're interpreting Chekhov, Dodin is when Chekhov is in front of him and there is a conversation. It's about, don't go to see Three Sisters or Cherry Orchard just to know about Chekhov. Chekhov is in a book. You can read it. This is about Dodin, his actors who are trying to bring him back. And reading the text, they would discover hundreds of subtleties and things which you would not understand, because this is his reaction of a contemporary person to what is going on over there. Because Chekhov, as any great super writer, he had the prevision, he had the visionary about the future. What is Three Sisters about, by the way? To Moscow, to Moscow, to Moscow. Go to Moscow. What's the problem? Amtrak or planes? Go.
Yeah, just call Uber.
Uber, yes. But look, and then there's another play called Waiting for Godot. And a lot of great American writers and European writers looking back at the Three Sisters, because this is a play about three sisters locked in the provincial house in some town in a Perm, and they want to go to Moscow. It's Moscow, what is metaphysical dream. Never they will get to Moscow. Never they will wait for Godot, get the Godot. It's one of the most important human thought about what's life about, Even Chekhov himself, when he did the play, I'm not going to discuss the play, but, this is a play which has a very strange rhythmical, meaning of the play. You can consider the play from the point of view that this is his last play where he was in a health, in a good feelings and so on. It's the beginning of his love story and his last and first and last marriage with Olga Knipper.
Yeah.
And actually he promised to Olga that he will make a play for her. This is the beginning of the romance, love story. And he actually finished that play, and Masha is for Olga, but look at the play. He was guessing that time when he was writing the play, I would be alive or not, I would be alive. Implanting, doing the flowers into he was in Yalta those years, last years of his life, he's in Yalta because he had tuberculosis and uncurable that time disease. And he was in Yalta, not in Yalta itself, but in the suburb of Yalta, because they did not allow him to be in Yalta. Infections. That's the point. And Olga visited him there and spent a couple of weeks in July. And after that love story, he said, okay, I have one idea of Three Sisters. And actually it was like, if you will see his, it was a kind of a diary of Chekhov when he is planting the flowers. The guess is, if the earth takes the flower, I would be alive. If not, I would be like a balloon, blah, blah, blah. This is the play about. That's why it's so dramatical. The play starts, I would like to remind you the first line of the play. Father died a year ago, just a year ago, the same day, which is birthday of Irina. Chekhov is great because you have to, this is the first puzzle. The day of death of the father coincided with the birthday of Irina, the youngest. And everything is great, May Day and birthday, and the military is coming, and jokes and all kind of... Look at the end of a play. Chekhov started the play with a hope, from my point of view, and probably from Dodian's point of view. He ended the play with a complete disaster of life, understanding of catastrophe, which is a personal catastrophe, and probably more important than just personal catastrophe. That's the play about. And a lot of things over there about that. But this is a labyrinth. It's not like straight line. It's not highway. It's a kind of a complicated curved line, like, the cardiogram, One great Russian director, Efros, who was a friend, very influenced Lev Dodin as a director, he once said, curved line, this is the arts, because if you have a cardiogram, if you're an idiot and don't understand that cardiogram is like that, if you look that cardiogram is just a straight line, it means that you are dead. And Dodin's cardiogram is very complicated because the whole way of rehearsals, months and months sometimes, they are trying to understand all of the curve, all of the turns, I'm now driving here and GPS, slight turn right. So many, things. How GPS is working like that? Who sees that? How they can help you? Director is a great GPS if you have that. And Three Sisters, he has a contemporary GPS over there with his feeling of drama of life, And there is a strange stuff in the history of the Three Sisters when Chekhov did it, and sometimes he was in the rehearsal of the Moscow Art Theatre next to Stanislavski. Actually, he's the author, he's the writer, and it means that he knows everything, what he wrote about. Once, watching the stage and how the actors are rehearsing that, he looked at Irina, who is the youngest, that birthday of Irina, and told to Stanislavski, whispered to him, probably it would be much more complicated and interesting for the show if Irina, turns out, would be kind of a Dr. Chebutikin's daughter. How she would be? So, love story. He knows everything. Why? Maybe, or probably, she would be better if this is Chekhovian genius, GPS, much more complicated. You can go like that. Oh, Irina is Chebutikin's daughter. It's completely different story. That's about the turns, and back and forward and so on. That's the problem of a quality show, quality acting, when you don't understand from the first second everything. You have to go, you have to live together with the actors, with the directors. It's 3 hours of your life. Don't go to the parking. Okay, think about that. 3 hours of your life, it's a lot of time. 3 hours when you are thinking, when you are emotionally involved, when you understand something about yourself. That's the Three Sisters, probably.
I did it once with a great Polish director by the name of Christian Lupa.
Yes.
And it was 4.5 hours. And the last act, which is the time in the play when the soldiers are departing, and the Three Sisters are lamenting all that. He did that in real time, and if you went along, if your metabolism as a member of the audience could fold into his production and his rhythm, that final act was devastating.
Rob is absolutely right. It's a test. Every great show is a test. It's not easy. You know, I remember the rehearsals of the last act in our Three Sisters, which we actually brought to Brooklyn Academy of Music in 1998. It's a Moscow Art Theatre centennial production, Three Sisters, 100 years. And Oleg Yefremov, who was a friend of Dodin, a friend of mine, artistic director of the Moscow Art Theatre, himself great, renowned Russian actor, nationally renowned, movie star. He was in a rehearsal, he was mortally sick that time, like Chekhov this as well. And he talked to the great actor who was playing Vershinin, Colonel Vershinin. Military guy, lover. At the end of a play, he's going, by the way, to Poland, part of Russian Empire at that time. And the last scene when Vershinin is waiting for Masha and she's not here. And actually he has to go. This is the orchestra, blah, blah, blah. They are leaving the town. And usually all of the actors in the world playing that scene with a kind of a temperament. So. And tragedy. He's leaving, she's here, and her husband is around saying, I'm content, I'm content, I'm content, which is very Chekhovian, complicated stuff. And Yefremov, who was a man, looked at that and advised the actor who was playing, rehearsing Vershinin, Slava Lubshin, with the gray hairs, movie star. Don't be too energetic in that scene. It's not drama for Vershinin. For Masha is a tragedy. For Vershinin, he's a military guy. Military, by definition, job description. They should go from town to town. He's going to Poland. In 2 weeks, Vershinin will have another Masha. Everyone was shocked with that. Actually, this is the cruel thing, but this is the truth of life. And this is very Chekhovian. Okay, I should go. He should go. He's a military. In 2 weeks, he will have another Masha.
Rob, you've been producing in New England for over 50 years and a lot of Chekhov within that. What brings New Englanders to Chekhov, and why should they be particularly excited about this production?
Well, I mean, for all the things that Tolly has been saying, his capacity to understand the incredible layers of humanity, and his interpretive range. When you get a great director, like Lev Dodin, you're going to experience the play in a very different way than if you had seen Christian Lupa's production of it. So it starts with the words, and it starts with a kind of elasticity that comes from the interpretive collaboration, and everybody in the audience can relate to it. I mean, they can see some of their own experience, some of their own melancholy, some of their own fears, some of their own longings in every Chekhov play, and that's what a live performance is all about.
In the 90s, it was an American movie, Uncle Vanya from 42nd Street.
Yeah, the Andrei Grigory.
Starts with, where is Chekhov? Where is those Russians, provinces? And finally, in that half-ruined, house and so they started rehearsing Uncle Vanya, and finally they did, and it's about them. It's not about provincial Russian, It's about Americans. And finally, at the end of a play, completely Americanized and privatized, that it's about us. That's the problem. Only great writers can do it, like Tennessee Williams in Russia, Completely. Just, where is that Trump called Desire to come? What is the play?
Streetcar Named
Streetcar Named
Desire.
Desire. Where is that? completely one of the most popular play in Russia.
Yeah.
Where is
Yeah, yeah.
the other end of the world?